Hey guys, we're back. Coffin Corner podcast, talking some Broncos football today. Me and Sean. We have a special guest on today, the Safety Bliss host and former Broncos safety, Nick Ferguson. Nick, how's it going?
It's going well, man. How's it going for you guys?
Pretty awesome, man. We're just talking some Broncos football. Kind of mulling over this season and some past seasons. I'm on with my co-host, Sean English. Sean had a question for you real quick.
Hey, Nick. First of all, I just want to say thanks for taking the time to meet up with us today. And so I had a question just regarding this current Broncos team in regards to a 2005 team that you were a part of. Do you think that this team can replicate not necessarily the success, because I know you guys went 13-3, made it to the AFC Championship game, but like quarterback play with Jake Plummer, he had 18 touchdowns and only 7 interceptions on the season. You had you had Mike Anderson, who had 1,000 yards, and Tatum Bell, who almost had 1,000 yards. You guys had a plus 20 in the turnover differential, and the team defense ranked 3rd overall. Is that something you think is sustainable for this current Broncos team, the way it's constructed?
Yeah, absolutely. Here's what we first must look at. I mean, based on the past 2 seasons that we, I don't want to say we enjoyed, but we had to suffer through, 5-11 and 6-10. So we're always looking for an improvement from year to year. When I look at that word improvement and how the Broncos organization did that, they went out and hired a group of coaches, and we can sit here and go back and forth and debate with Scangarello and the fact that he's going to be a first-time play caller, and we don't know what the offense is going to look like. I mean, based on the Super Bowl of this past season, the Patriots versus the Rams, the one thing that we saw, and it was something that is prevalent in the NFL, even though most people don't talk about it, especially during the regular season and once we get into the postseason, is defense. So will this defense be able to put up the same numbers that we did defensively? Maybe not exactly the way we put them up. They may have even better numbers. Even though we had a better, I guess, personnel grouping overall, this group here that Fangio has, inherited, they have a better pass rush than we had at that time. And what we've seen is when you have pass rushers, guys who can get after the quarterback, that changes the direction for so many different things. It not only helps the defensive side of the ball, but it definitely helps the offensive side of the ball, putting them on the short field and even spotting the quarterback, maybe 7 to 12 points based on their ability to flip the field or create turnovers. When I look at Joe Flacco and the talk or the conversation that is coming from, I guess, the outside national media about Joe Flacco, there hasn't really been a lot. And the conversations that we've heard haven't really spoken of Joe Flacco in a very flattering way. We're talking about a quarterback in Joe Flacco who was once the Super Bowl MVP. So we're going to see a different type of offense than the one that we saw under Mike Shanahan when Jake Plummer was my quarterback. It's going to be like, short passes, quick passes, still some of the same kind of ideas of the West Coast type of offense, but this offense is going to take more shots down the field than they took in years past because Scangarello definitely wants to do that. That's why we talk so much about Cortland Sutton and taking that next step. That's why it was important that Emmanuel Sanders comes back healthy and he's brought along slowly so he doesn't have any setbacks. That's why Noah Fant, was drafted by this team as the number 1, tight end. And looking at that tight end room, those guys are going to be very important with the success of this year's Broncos team. And when I played, and you talked about the Jake Plummer team that I played with, we had tight ends, but I wouldn't say that we had a group of tight ends like this. And I know the biggest question mark is health, but if this tight end room can stay healthy, now it's going to definitely change the complexity of this offense.
Yeah, Nick, and you had mentioned, some of the success of the offense depends on the defense. And when I look at the Broncos' defense, obviously the biggest standouts are Bradley Chubb and Von Miller. What are the expectations of Bradley Chubb making that jump into his second year?
Well, the expectations are great. I mean, when you come off a rookie season like, Chubb had last year, and then you couple that with playing opposite Von Miller for his second year, you have to think that the expectations are high. I mean, Coach Fangio in Chicago didn't have a duo like this with the Bears. I mean, you had Leonard and you had Khalil Mack. But we're talking about two different type of guys in Von Miller and Bradley Chubb.
Yeah.
So, I predicted, and this is truly a possibility, and I would love to see it happen. I predicted that both Von Miller and Chubb double-digit sacks to the tune of maybe 20 for Von and maybe 22 for Bradley Chubb.
Well, that's a bold statement, Nick. So you're saying that they're breaking that record?
Oh, absolutely. I don't see why they can. And if you're going to make a prediction, you might as well make it a bold prediction. I'm the same person that predicted the Broncos to go 12-4. So I'm not, ashamed of going out there and say, well, 20 and 22. Both guys have the capabilities of doing, and understand why I'm saying that. I mean, we live in a pass-happy league. And if you can get teams in, third and long situations and you take away what they want to do from a run game standpoint, you force them to pass the ball. You force them to play the game that you want to play. And knowing that you have two bookends like that, I mean, you have to be optimistic that 2022 has to be the tops that you are projecting that these guys can actually get to.
Yeah, well, and it's interesting, because we know the pass rush is going to be good. There's no doubt about that. And this defense, since Von Miller has been here, has been a defensive-minded team. What, aside from Chubb and Chris Harris and all these all-stars, who do you think is the X factor to get that defense, back to Super Bowl caliber?
Well, for me, it's the guy who was roaming the middle of that defense, and it starts with Todd Davis. Todd Davis has now been thrust into this role. There's no more Danny Trevathan. There's no more Brandon Marshall. Now he becomes the guy. Now the only concern is the guy playing next to him, which is Josie Jules. So I don't see Josie Jules being on the field a lot. He's more like a situational player. Maybe you play him on first down or something like that. But, once you get into, third and long situations, he's not going to be there. And when I look at it and I look at the pieces that have been added to this team, like Bryce Callahan, but more importantly, a guy like Kareem Jackson, right? Kareem Jackson is going to be, relied on heavily in his defense because the reason he was brought here is not for his covering skills outside the numbers, but because of his ability to make open field tackles. We've seen so many teams bring a safety in that's kind of a hybrid guy because so many teams are in 11 personnel, that's 3 wide receivers. You need someone who can cover those guys, but you also need someone that can tackle. So for me, I'm seeing a prediction of Todd Davis and Kareem Jackson, and maybe Kareem Jackson ended up being a real intricate part of this defense, maybe more so than Todd Davis.
Wow, I totally agree. It'll be interesting to watch. Hopefully the production from Josie Jewell goes up. I really liked him coming out of college, but we'll see. But hey, Nick, thank you so much for coming on the show. We really appreciate it. Everyone, that's Nick Ferguson, host of 104.3 host of 104.3 The Drive, host of Safety Blitz on 104.3. Nick, it was great having you on the show.
All right, man. Thank you, man. Appreciate the having me.
All right, have a good one, Nick.
All right, you do the same.
All right, so that was Nick Ferguson on the show talking some Broncos stuff. Interesting takes. Yes, we have all these stars. We have Kareem Jackson added into that secondary. But Todd Davis is a big part of the Broncos' defensive success. And we'll see what happens. I like Josie Jewell a lot, but still developing. He's a fifth-round pick. So we'll see. But training camp in a week. Lots of stuff to talk about. We'll be coming at you guys tomorrow with another mini-pod. I want to thank Nick Ferguson for coming on the show. We'll see you guys next week.